Right, so it's tiny violins time, folks. Let's get them out. Let's start the week with a good news story we can all get behind and celebrate the Rupert Murdoch grift, finding itself more hard up than ever before. Well, he's hardly hard up, really, but if anyone deserves to take a kicking in the wallet, surely it must be the sentient testicle passing itself off as a newspaper proprietor. Making this news even better is the fact it's not just his UK news outlets contributing to the losses. It's global. Everyone, no matter where they're from, they seem to be sick and tired of the poison he pushes on paper or anywhere else. So what's the damage then, Damo? Well, News Corporation, which is the umbrella company for all of Murdoch's global outlets from Fox News, The Australian, The Scum, The Times, New Scientist magazine, publishers Harper Collins, Talk TV, Talk Radio, all the rest are down over the last year by a massive 75%. 75%, folks. Still means profits for the last year of $187 million were made. But when you consider the talking ballsack made $760 million just a year before, it's a pretty massive tanking. So what's led to it then? Well, the losses aren't being created per se in the US, but more here in the UK and Australia. And it was actually advertising revenue that they lost more than anything else. And this is interesting because people at News Corp, notably the chief executive, a guy called Robert Thomson, said things picked up in the second half of the last year as inflation abated and interest rates flatlined. And that surely is meant to imply it is sales and people not buying their horrid products because they're having to cut back on things that is at fault, that is hitting them in the pocket. Well, advertisers would feel that too, but given the cost of living crisis we're living through, you don't tend to think of them, and they certainly weren't mentioned by Thomson. At any rate, it is they, apparently, that are responsible for the drop-off, recording lower print advertising here in the UK and lower print and digital advertising in Australia. Now, let's assume it is the cost of living crisis hitting the advertisers too for a moment, though, and just in these two countries. America's felt it too, of course, but let's just take the UK and Australia on their own. If it was just interest rates rising and inflation, would that really account for a 75% loss for Murdoch? 3/4 of their income gone, or profits gone. If so, boycotting the advertisers of his hateful outlets seems the obvious way to put News Corp out of business, doesn't it? Clearly, they're utterly reliant on ads to exist, far more so than us actually buying the rags. So, of course, that becomes part of it too, insofar as advertisers wouldn't advertise, people didn't see the ads. But you can kind of understand why Murdoch continues to sell the Scum, for example, which we know he operates at a loss because he keeps the advertisers. Plus, of course, it is an opportunity for him to exert his malign influence over those daft enough to still buy the hate-filled media equivalent of a pus-filled boil. For as much as Murdoch has well earned our disdain and our disgust through his rags, as much as we're sick of him influencing elections via his outlets as he's done for decades, he also knows more and more of us are getting sick of it. His name is synonymous with entire generations for being something to get away from. His papers are being bought less and less. And who goes to any of his websites out of choice? Besides, online, there is such a wide variety of news outlets, people are far better informed for it by getting their news from multiple different sources at their fingertips. Heck, it's even brought you to me. You lucky buggers. But for all of that, if there is one thing Murdoch definitely isn't, it's stupid. He's a lot of things. Malign, arrogant in his political influence, a coffin dodger now so far past his best he probably farts dust. But he isn't stupid, and he's looking at his next revenue stream. Now, for all of his collapsing profits, for the first time, they brag, digital advertising exceeded print advertising. Your profits just nosedived 75%. Sure, that's a pretty academic thing to have come out with. But now they think there's something in it at News Corp. And the next move for money making at Murdoch Towers is artificial intelligence, AI. If there's anyone on the planet you can envisage wanting to implant their intelligence into a robot, or anyone at all who'd want to be the literal incarnation of Skynet and just as malignant, it's Rupert Murdoch. But of course, that's not quite what AI is it? AI is ChatGPT writing your kids' homework for you. It's making fake cartoons and pictures based on a few instructions. But what could Murdoch be thinking of using it for? Generative AI, they're calling it, and it'd basically put journalists out of business. Who needs writers when you can get AI to write your filth for you? It'd be no more accurate, would it? AI capable of producing text, images, video even, all to drive profits. That's all well and good in a creative context, but this guy passes off his nonsense as news. How dangerous could tech like this in his hands be? Think I'm wrong? Let's hear from Robert Thomson again on this. He said, momentum is surely gathering pace in the age of generative AI, which we believe presents a remarkable opportunity to create a new stream of revenues while allowing us to reduce costs across the business. We are already in active negotiations to establish a value for our unique content sets and intellectual property that will play a crucial role in the future of AI. In fact, Murdoch is already playing with AI in Australia. It's being kept fairly simple so far, just news stories on the weather or fuel price reports or traffic reports at local news station levels. But it means he's producing some 3,000 local news stories a week down under using AI. Can it be scaled up to national news levels, more important stories being covered? Is it capable of covering all of the usual bile he passes off as news? And will the use of AI change his fortunes or just add to how distrusted Murdoch and his outlets already are? Personally, I prefer to see his profits continue to nosedive long before he's able to advance his embrace of a new technology. The world will be far better informed without his contributions, and any advances to the benefit of us all that AI could bring would be undermined by people rapidly learning to distrust it, thanks to billionaires like him getting in there first. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Leave a comment to join the conversation too and have your say. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where Murdoch's rags were very noisy about the Hugh Edwards situation at the BBC, but have been very, very silent over Dan Wootton. But then, he's a former employee, isn't he? So nothing to see there, in his view. Well, some of us ask questions about that, and I'll hopefully see you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.